And very warm welcome at Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Tonight, the worst day for stocks this year as President Trump won't rule out the possibility of a recession. The major indices all way down. The worst day for the NASDAQ since 2022. Tech stocks hit hard, especially Tesla, all as the hits keep coming on the trade war with Canada. The incoming prime minister squaring off with the president. China hitting back on agriculture products. The impact on farmers as they look with concern on their fields. Plus, the legal left turn for the Menendez brothers. The district attorney in the case now opposing resentencing, accusing them of lying. And what he said would get him to change his mind in our one-on-one interview. Plus, Laura Jarrett and what's next in the case. The spring break search, a missing American college student last seen on a beach. Her parents speaking out. The mounting questions tonight. Caught on video, the winter tornadoes hitting North Florida. The whistleblower speaking out, accusing Facebook of compromising ethics to achieve growth at all costs to expand to China. Meta trying to block her book, What She's Telling Our Stephanie Goss. And the good news as the push to hire more pilots takes off, one of the youngest sets her sights on the wild blue yonder.
Hello everyone, it's Simon from Funded Trading Plus here, and I've got some amazing, exciting news. Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air. Stocks plunged, the Dow dropping nearly 900 points after President Trump would not rule out the possibility of a recession. Also tonight, the images of massive fiery collision involving a U.S. tanker. First tonight, the stock market's in a spiral today, the Dow losing nearly 900 points. The NASDAQ suffering its worst day in nearly 3 years after President Trump refused to dismiss the possibility of a recession following his moves on tariffs. And tonight, what Canada's new Prime Minister-elect has now declared. The fiery collision at sea involving a U.S. tanker, flames and black smoke pouring from that tanker, hit by another ship. Both ships erupting into flames. In the U.S., the explosive plane crash in the Northeast, the plane slamming into a Pennsylvania parking lot. And now the survivor story tonight. And just in, there's word a medical helicopter has gone down. There was news coming in tonight of the search for a missing college student on spring break with her friends. In New York City, the aerials late today, the major protest after a former Columbia graduate student who led pro-Palestinian demonstrations at Columbia has now been detained by ICE agents. Tonight, the major blow for the Menendez brothers, what the new DA has now declared in their battle for freedom. Tonight, the new talks set between U.S. officials and Ukraine, and the message President Zelensky sent to President Trump. James Longman in Ukraine tonight. Back here in the U.S., the tornado hitting Florida today at EF2 near Orlando. Multiple homes damaged or destroyed. Outside New York City, the major wildfires in the Hamptons, and tonight what they're now saying about arson. Former talk show host Wendy Williams in the news tonight, reportedly throwing a note out her window. Police then responding to a 911 call. And country superstar Luke Combs and his very personal reveal tonight.
You got a fast car.
The country singer bravely sharing his difficult condition. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York.
Jackie DeAngelis is here, co-host of the Big Money Show on Fox Business. I basically just want to let you talk. So, top line thought, if you will, on this whole thing with tariffs right now.
This is going to be hard. It might be a little painful, but the CEO of our country, President Donald Trump, is actually doing something that is really courageous, Harris. Nobody has tried to do this, even though we've known for the last 30 years that we need to, that China's taking advantage of us, that our trade partners are taking advantage of us. But the status quo has been so much easier for everybody to deal with. People are worried about re-election and how a difficult time period might impact them. They're not thinking about America.
You're talking about people on both sides of the political aisle.
Both sides of the aisle.
Interesting.
And so what I think Donald Trump is doing here, we have to bear with him while it could be a little painful, is to ride through that time that we bring manufacturing home and we incentivize companies to manufacture here.
I want to hit a couple of things that may not have been buzzwords necessarily, but they are now transition, that makes people nervous.
Yes.
I mean, what does that mean? What's the amount of time? What do we feel in the meantime? Are there any offsets the president can do? Like with corporations, can he start to lower their tax rate right now so that they don't have to pass on every cost to us, the consumer?
And he's going to. He's saying, if you bring your manufacturing here, if you start building plants, I'm going to cut regulations and make it easier for you to do that, to quicken the process.
Right. So my question, though, is how fast can that go? Because you can't build a corporation's headquarters in 24 hours.
No, it's going to take some time. It's going to take years. But think about the CHIPS Act and the almost $300 billion that we gave. We subsidized companies, by the way, that didn't need subsidies to build manufacturing plants, and they haven't even done it yet. These companies, with their own money, will come here to take advantage of what Donald Trump is offering.
Can we get any of that money back if they haven't built a plant yet?
I'm not sure what the clawbacks are or what if that's realistic, but it's a massive number and nothing's happened. No jobs, no manufacturing, no chips yet.
I know it's not a verb, but it should be. They need to doge that.
Right.
Last quick kind of buzzword that makes people nervous, and that's more factory workers.
Yeah.
It feels very 1947. I think that has a different connotation today. What is it?
Well, I think it's important to be able to go back to that era because you're going to be employing more people. You're going to have people in this country that feel good about the jobs that they're doing. Yes, it's going to work with AI. Yes, we're going to sort of change and evolve with technology, but they'll have benefits. It's a good thing to bring it home.
Ask not for whom the bell tolls.
It tolls for thee who owns stock.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm John Dickerson.
I'm Maurice Dubois.
Most Americans own stock either directly or through retirement accounts, and those accounts took a beating today as stock prices plunged.
The Dow at one point was down nearly 3% before recovering some and closing with a loss of just over 2%.
The broader-based S&P 500 fell nearly 3%, and the NASDAQ, heavy with tech stocks, took a 4% nosedive.
Investors were dumping stock amid a world of worries, including inflation, the president's refusal to rule out a recession, and his escalating trade war. CBS Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady joins us now. So, Kelly, what is going on here?
So, look, it is one word: uncertainty. Okay, so today's sell-off would have been eye-popping alone, but it follows a roller coaster ride last week as well.
On this Monday night, federal election speculation. When Prime Minister-designate Mark Carney might send Canadians to the polls.
You will be seeing probably more of me than you want.
And how ready are the Liberals to hit the campaign trail with their new leader? Stock market misery. What's behind Wall Street's worst day in years? Power play. Ontario's new tax on electricity sold to the U.S. Disaster at sea. The fiery collision between an oil tanker and a cargo ship. Plus, how royalty can wield soft power.
The king, rather like his mother, is very good at giving subtle signals.
The delicate ways King Charles is showing his support for Canada.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining me.
We're reporting on TV, on our website, and on all our social media platforms.
Yana Lee, one of the 200 France 24 correspondents around the world.
Hello and a very warm welcome to you. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are our top stories this hour. Russia says that Moscow was targeted by dozens of drones overnight, with one person killed and 3 injured. No comment from Kyiv on that claim, as Moscow's mayor saying it was drones from Ukraine. It all comes as Ukraine says it has a plan for peace, one that would begin with a ceasefire covering the Black Sea, while high-level talks between Ukrainians and Americans set to get underway this Tuesday. A deal to work together, Syria's new authorities and the Kurdish group that had set up an autonomous region in the northeast of the country during the civil war, say that they will now work together to rebuild the country. A message of unity that comes just after days of brutal violence that saw hundreds of people, notably members of the Alawite community, killed. And Greenland's general election getting international attention. The majority of parties in the running to rule the autonomous island that is part of the Kingdom of Denmark are pro-independence. But they are now wary of US desires to take control of the mineral-rich Arctic land. Good to have you with us. Well, also coming up, Paris packing up thousands of famous artworks as its modern art museum, the Pompidou Centre, gets ready to close its doors for 5 years. The famous facade of that building, the colourful pipes and tubes, needing some serious renovation.
This is Asia Now.
It's 4 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Rani Samtani. At this hour, ex-Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has been arrested in Manila over his deadly war against drugs that killed close to 30,000 people. Police picked him up on an international criminal court warrant, which accuses him of crimes against humanity. U.S. President Donald Trump reportedly hoping to hammer out a trade deal with China. Reports say he could meet his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping as early as next month. And it's been 5 years since the world was brought to a halt after COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic by the World Health Organization. We look at the lessons learned and the questions that remain unanswered.
Africa News. The news. Income-generating projects have slowed down in Burundi since the fighting in eastern DRC escalated last February. Trade and transportations are the most affected activities in the Gatumba sector in the Democratic Republic of Congo's west boundary. Many households along National Road number 4 connecting Bujumbura and Uvira face economic challenges due to a significant traffic decrease. Today we are having a few passengers from Uvira to Burundi, which can just be 2 of them. Things are different. What used to happen before is no longer happening today. We are supposed to get at least 4 clients from Uvira, and that would make us feel better, but now we can go home empty. And a crisis.
The government of the Democratic Republic of Congo has announced a $5 million reward for information leading to arrest of 3 key leaders of the M23 rebel group, which has seized large areas in the east of the country this year. The bounty targets Colonel Nanga, former head of DR Congo's Electoral Commission and current leader of the Congo River Alliance, an alliance that includes M23. He has been seen addressing rallies in cities under the river's control. Also named in the reward are M23 military commander Sultani Makenga and political leader Bertrand Bisimwa. Last year, a military court sentenced the 3 men to death in absentia for treason. Additionally, the government has placed over $4 million reward on the rest of their accomplices. Despite the reward, capturing the rebel leader remains unlikely. The Congolese army has struggled against M23, which is backed by Rwanda, and rebels now control vast swaths of the resource-rich eastern DR Congo, including the key cities of Goma and Bukavu. President Felix Tshisekedi has shifted focus to rallying international support for sanctions against Rwanda, which he accuses of fueling the conflict.
Bonjour Zenit TV, the YouTube channel created by a group of young women in Senegal to publicize their growing agribusiness via social media. Previously, like many other young women, they were forced to migrate to the city where they did low-paid menial jobs. But now they're making a successful living cultivating vegetables in their home village of Ngundiane. The idea for our YouTube channel Zenit TV was to publicize our activity and do marketing too. Us young girls, if we do agriculture, we'll remain poor. It's a far cry from their lives 3 years ago when they were forced to drop out of school with little prospects. But as women, they were mocked when they joined the UN's Agri-Jeune project in 2022. Even before Agri-Jeune, people laughed at us and made fun of us when we were doing the training. An expert at the UN International Fund for Agricultural Development, which initiated the project, says young women wanting to farm successfully in Senegal face multiple challenges.
AgriJeune project is directly reaching 80,000 rural young people and creating over 8,000 decent jobs, of which 50% are for rural young women. And we are seeing great results to date, with increased entrepreneurial spirit among these young women and also increased incomes to not only meet their daily needs but also reinvest and expand their businesses. These young women are very vibrant and are great champions and leaders within their communities.
But despite the challenges they faced, these young women now successfully grow vegetables like peppers and tomatoes. And with their IT training, a loan to start their business and their YouTube channel, they're well on their way to building a better future for themselves.
In a show of defiance, North Korea launched several ballistic missiles into the sea on Monday, hours after the US and South Korea began their annual military drills. This marks North Korea's fifth missile launch this year. The missiles were fired from the Hwanghae province, with South Korea enhancing its surveillance and coordinating closely with the US. The US-South Korea Freedom Shield exercise, which began earlier, is seen by North Korea as a rehearsal for invasion. North Korea has warned that these drills could trigger physical conflict on the Korean peninsula. Meanwhile, South Korea is investigating an accidental bombing incident last week where fighter jets mistakenly dropped bombs on a civilian area, injuring 30. Both South Korean and US forces have suspended live firing training until the probe is completed.
Game, set, bingo! AFL, NRL, men's and women's. Right through the middle. Whatever footy you're after, we've got you covered. Bang! On the ABC Listen app.
Today, floodwaters recede and the focus turns to recovery in southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. Authorities begin assessing the damage and work to replenish food and medicine supplies in affected communities.
So the immediate threat to the community has been reduced. We are going to get Queensland back on its feet, right across the state.
34-year-old faces court as New South Wales police lay more charges over anti-Semitic incidents. And one person missing after a fiery crash between a cargo vessel and an oil tanker off the coast of England. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Roz Childs.
Hello, this is Sky News. Very good morning to you. Thanks a lot for joining us. These are your latest headlines. The search called off for a missing crew member and concerns about a highly toxic chemical after a cargo ship collides with a US tanker carrying jet fuel in the North Sea.
So Long has collided with tanker Stena Immaculate in the outer anchorage. Both vessels are abandoning.
Also ahead, by-election triggered Mike Amesbury quits as an MP after punching a man in the street. US stock markets plunge over the economic impact of tariffs. We look back at the first 50 days of President Trump's second term. And Volodymyr Zelensky arrives in Saudi Arabia ahead of crucial talks with the US over Russia's war in Ukraine. Hello and a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us here on Sky News.
An environmental disaster as highly toxic chemicals leak into the ocean and a crew member is still missing.
Donald Trump is set to send an envoy to meet Vladimir Putin in Moscow as the United States calls for Ukraine to cede land for peace in the region.
Calls to clamp down on foreign criminals. The Conservatives put pressure on the government to deport offenders from abroad.
A quarter of police are ready to resign as a sharp decline in morale threatens staff retention.
There's fury in France as 450 migrant squatters take over a theatre in Paris, with neighbours facing financial ruin.
Kicking up a stink as Birmingham bin workers begin walkouts over pay.
As the Prime Minister calls the number of people out of work indefensible and unfair, we're asking, is it time to end benefits Britain?
And in the sport this morning, Newcastle beat West Ham in their warm-up for the Carabao Cup final at the weekend. Huge game for Liverpool tonight. They play Paris Saint-Germain at Anfield in the Champions League. And the famous Raw, that's okay, I can't do the Raw. But anyway, what we heard is the tape goes up this afternoon for the first day of the Cheltenham Festival.
We can expect sunshine and showers through the week. These showers bringing snow, also risk of ice and some sharp frost. Stay tuned and I'll be here with all the details.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.